Hey guys, and welcome back to a very long awaited return for the Chinamen podcast. Um, we decided to finally make a return, and we're going to talk about today the upcoming Border-Gavaskar Trophy. Um, so yeah, let's just get into it.
Yeah, and we've actually sent our live reporter Arjun over to India, over to Nagpur to cover the first test. It's pretty excited to have. It's our first live reporting actually from any cricketing series. So get around that.
Yeah, Nagpur, it's pretty hot, pretty good conditions here.
Yeah, how's the pitch looking?
It's, it might spin a little bit. That's
You
that's what
reckon?
that's what I got so
Yeah.
far.
Well, I
It's
think
been a
that's
little bit or a
cheating. I
lot.
think that's not allowed.
Yeah.
Anyway. Um. Yeah.
It
So I guess the first question is what players are we expecting to see? We've sort of just before this started, we've been running through players that are injured. We're thinking for Australia, we know Hazelwood's out for a bit. Stark's definitely out for the first test. Green can't bowl for at least the first test, but they haven't, I think, officially said that he won't play. There's a chance he could be in just as a batter.
Well, I heard he didn't even bat in the nets though. That's what Smith said.
Yeah, but he's a bit of a Chad, so he might not need any practice. Do you want to go through the Indian injuries?
Yeah, so obviously Rishabh Pant was in that car accident. So he's not taking part. Jasprit Bumrah, he's been injured indefinitely for a while. There's hope that he can play the last two tests, but I'm not sure yet. And then a big injury is Shreyas Iyer. He's missing at least the first test.
Yeah. So I guess that begs the question, what teams are we going to see on Thursday? 2 days to the series starts. There's still lots of debate about, who might be playing in that first test. Do we want to go through the Australian team first that we're probably a bit more familiar with?
Yeah, Ryan, do you want to run through your 11?
I'll share my screen just quickly.
Oh,
And
wow.
that way we can all just, rather than, I think most of us have a very similar idea of what the team will be for both
I
Australia
haven't
and
thought
India.
about
Why
it.
don't we just break it down
Well,
in
I
terms
think
of
there's
like
a bit of
top three
debate.
batsmen, middle order, and then bowlers or something like that. And then we can all just make a combined team and then include on the side any players that we think may fill in those positions as well.
I think
Apart
we
from the
may
main
we may
guys.
as well let's just give an opinion on each player as well as we go.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think the Australian top three is fairly clear. I don't know if people agree with that, but I think the Australian top five is fairly clear. Yeah, Warner Kawaja minus Labuschagne. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. And yeah, talking about the players, I think Kawaja is going to be our most important batsman this series. I think a lot's going to rest on Kawaja. He was so important for us in Pakistan. These conditions could be very different, but he can perform on the subcontinent. We know that. He's been our most reliable batsman probably over the past year, ever since he came back. Warner, any runs Warner gets on is honestly a bonus. This is my way of looking at it. Like Warner is such an inconsistent batsman over the last 2 or 3 years, but every now and again he just knuckles down and shows that he is good enough to make a big score. Yeah, do you guys want to comment on the openers?
Well, yeah, I still think that Smith is more important than Kawaja, but I guess you probably expect him to score anyway, if that makes sense. And um, you're right about Warner. Like sometimes he just pops up, but he's never really done well in India.
No,
And I
it's
think
his West.
like looking at the odds, like the way he's playing it, I think it's unlikely he could turn it around. But we'll see. Marnus and Head, it's going to be very interesting to see how they go. Neither of them have played Test cricket in India. I'm more worried about Head than Marnus for sure. But we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything that's been said. I think if Warner's going to succeed, I think he has to go out and play shots. If he doesn't play shots and just thinks about it, playing defensively, he's going to get out. So if he can score it like a runner ball and maybe just get like a 40's enough. Like if he goes out and scores a quick 40 from him, that's more than what we would expect from him anyway. So I think that's what he needs to do. I think Kawaja and Smith are definitely the key. Marnus and Head, they're both relatively untested. I think Marnus is a good player of spin generally, but you never know in these conditions about like whether he will change his technique or mentality in regards to playing spin because he tends to go for that sweep shot. And Head, I don't know. I haven't seen too much of Head against spin just because like he really nails the quicks. He's got a good eye. So he's a bit like one in the sense that he just hits through the line and doesn't really think too much about like footwork and that. So it'll be really interesting to see what Head does, especially against the likes of Ashwin.
Well, Head struggled a lot in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. And I just remembered as well, Khawaja actually hasn't played Test cricket in India, even though this is like the third time or something he's touring. But I think he will succeed because he's got a lot of ODI
made
runs
for it, doesn't he? Yeah.
and he's got a lot of I'm pretty sure he's got Australia A runs there. I read that the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Marnus will be fine. I'm expecting Marnus to perform like always. Like he is already the luckiest batter out there, so hopefully that'll come to his aid again. And I don't know, I just expect, knowing this kind of person he is, he would have had so much practice against this. He would have made full use of the extensive net sessions that he has with Smith, and I expect him to be out there. Head might flop, yeah, but I can also see Head in some of those really low scoring games that we might expect, based on the sort of the India-England series we saw and how pitches have been recently in India. Head's the kind of person that could hit that, that run a ball 50 or 60 that can win us a test match. So I hope that Head finds a way to play his natural game, which he always does in Australia, which is always aggressive batting, playing a one-day innings almost always. And I think Head has made one-day runs in India before. I don't know. I haven't actually checked that, but I don't see why he couldn't have a similar performance. I don't know, but he is probably the weakest point, bar Warner.
Actually, I do think if there was a series where like Manus's luck would run out, you'd think this would be the type of series.
Yeah.
But he's still pretty good, so we'll see.
Yeah, we're more prepared, I think, than we have been for a very long time in terms of being able to play spin in that top order. I think it's looking very, very good.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think this is like if we're going to win a series in India, it will be this one. Just off the batting alone.
In saying that though, like last time in Australia, Ashwin and Jadeja bowled pretty well to Smith and Marnus. Like at the start, Ashwin got Smith out like for a duck and like one or something.
Yeah, I feel it's very different though in India. And Smith often plays best in the hardest conditions to play in. It's sort of what he thrives upon. He hates it being easy to score. That's when he gets out. He likes to go to England and go to India and stuff, and he's just so up for the challenge.
Yeah, like we haven't talked much about Smith, but I feel like it's like we know that he's going to do well, and like this is what he's built for.
He's the best batsman in world cricket, and he has been for years, I think. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Should we talk about the number 6 spot? I know who I think it should be. I think it should be Matt Renshaw. I think Matt Renshaw's bowling has improved a lot recently, and it can come to use. But also, I really don't think we should be bringing Peter Handscomb back into the team. I understand the arguments that he's done okay in India before in one days, and I don't know if he's played Test there before, and he's a good player of spin in theory. But Matt Renshaw has improved astronomically over the last 12 months in all forms of cricket. He's done it in the Shield. He did enough to get called into the Test squad. He didn't get a good chance, but I think Renshaw really is going to be our long-term opener. Like definitely in the Australian cricket team. He's not the cricketer he used to be. He should be playing.
Ryan, do you think that Green is good enough to play as just a bat?
I thought so. I thought Green would get the nod immediately. So I don't know. Like it'd be obviously for Green to come in, Renshaw would have to be dropped because he played the last test in Sydney. But I don't know. It's not like we need him as a bowler though. That's the thing, because 2 quicks and then 2 spinners plus the all-rounders that we have like would be enough. But I don't know. I think if we're gonna back Green long term, then I think this will be a really good test room as a batter. So I'd say keep Green in. If he doesn't do well in the first like 2 tests, then we can always pull him out. But I don't know. I like between him and Renshaw, it's hard to say who's going to perform better with the bat. So give it to Green.
I was just gonna say Hanscom did play in the last tour of India.
Yeah.
I think he did okay. There was at least one test where they drew. He batted pretty well in that one. I'm torn because I think if Renshaw plays, that's like a lot of left-handers in the top like 7, 8, and like Ashwin is still the biggest threat, as good as Axar and Jadeja are. And who actually has done better out of Renshaw and Hanscom in Shield like recently?
Hanscom makes Shield runs, but it's because every season he scores a 200 or a 250 at Junction Oval in the most boring game ever. Hanscom does not make runs when it's a challenge, and it's annoying that Hanscom even gets chances. To me, he's just not good enough. His technique isn't good enough, and he was dropped a long time ago because we realized his technique wasn't good enough to play Test cricket. He hasn't changed it. He hasn't got better. He's not a better player than that. He shouldn't come back into the team. For me, it's Renshaw or Green. My thoughts with Green was that I'd be worried that he might re-injure himself. I just want Green to get fully fit. Like I don't know. I mean, I sort of know the nature of the injury, but I'd be worried about him getting hit on the hand again and being out for the series, because I think we need Green to be bowling to win this series. To be honest, we need Green bowling in the later games. Green is such a huge advantage. He adds a lot to the team. I liked how he added to the bowling in Pakistan. Bowling from much higher up, it helps. And he's very different to Cummins and Boland and Hazelwood and whatever. So I really want him to be fit first, and also the fact that he hasn't been practicing. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Like there is a risk of him getting injured, and I still think Green is in Australia's top 6 batters. One thing I was gonna say is, like he can't be picked, I'm pretty sure, but I would have really loved to see Glenn Maxwell instead of Hanscom in the squad. Just because he's done well in Asia, and he's a pretty good bowler. Though
he's injured, right?
But I did read actually he's coming back to Shield, and they might even consider calling him up if he does well, even though it's like one Shield game after a few years. So whether he deserves it, but
I'm not sure. Maxwell hasn't consistently performed for Australia in any format really for a while.
Yeah, that's also true.
It's
more like the idea of Maxwell really that I like.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Will, if you reckon Green is 100% fit, like there's no risk whatsoever about him re-injuring his hand, re-injuring his hand, do you reckon he should be playing or no?
Well, what I reckon should happen is we should drop Warner and open with Renshaw and play Green at 6, if that was the case, but that's never going to happen. I think Green, I understand the logic. If Green's fully fit, he probably should be at that 6. I still think Renshaw is really turning out to be a quality cricketer that we should use whenever we get the chance there.
Okay.
Well, I think by the end of this year, Warner will 100% be out of the team. Like, if not this series and Ashes, he'll retire
if he doesn't score runs in either of these series, he's done pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's going to get dropped till he retires, to be honest.
Probably,
The selector even said that. One of the selectors said that he's like earned his spot for another year. Anyway.
This is a tangent, but I was going to say he won ODI Player of the Year. He didn't deserve that as well. So he's got some friends up in the awards right now.
Yeah.
So
after his miraculous Man of the Series performance against South Africa.
I still don't get that.
Yeah. We all agree we should drop Carey and put in Hanscom at 7. Yeah, thumbs up. Cool.
Carey, not gonna lie, Carey, I'll never be a huge fan of him. I don't know why. There's just something about him, like even though he's improved a lot. But yeah,
he's too happy all the time.
That's just my.
I actually get that. He's just like too much of a good bloke.
Yeah, there's something sus about that. You can't all be that perfect.
I'm just waiting for Josh Inglis one day.
I reckon Kerry's in a relationship with the girl that outed Tim Payne.
Yeah, he set it up.
Yeah, I think it's all a plot. I don't know. Kerry has improved since he was selected for Australia first. So I'm not as against him as I used to be.
Actually,
I don't
I
know.
saw this stat. It was like ever since he fell in that pool in Pakistan, his average is like 80 with the
Yeah,
bat.
there's something in the water in Pakistan. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows if
Yeah.
they'll have that effect in India though? Pakistani water. We'll see.
I wonder. I think if anything, it should improve it. Pakistan hates India. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
the bowlers.
So there's been a bit of talk that well, ignoring the pitch to start off, some people think that Australia or even Commons has hinted that they'll just go with their strength and play three quicks and a spinner. But I think most likely they pretty much have to play two spinners. And also now that Stark and Hazelwood are injured, you can't have Boland and Lance Morris playing together. So it'll have to be two spinners and two quicks.
Yeah, unless it's three spinners and one quick depending on the pitch, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. And then they can kind of have the other all rounders as well.
Yeah, we have those other like four spinners. Yeah.
So Cummins, Nathan Lyon,
Yes.
they're going to
Happy
play
with that.
every single match of the
Yeah.
series. Who are your other two bowlers, Ryan?
I think so. I think obviously we need another quick. So it's between Boland and Morris, and then we presume the last position would be a spinner. So that'd probably be between Swepson and Agar.
And Murphy.
So I think out of those four players, then I reckon it'll be Agar and Boland that will play. Whether Agar is like good enough to play, I think it really depends on the pitch.
For me, Agar makes sense because he can bat a little bit, but mostly because India really struggles against left arm orthodox bowling. I saw some stats before, like Kohli and everyone really struggles, and especially against Bangladesh. If Agar's not as good as like say Shakib, but yeah, it's something to really consider. And also no Rishabh Pant, he would tonk Agar for days. So I think Agar makes sense as a selection, but whether he's actually better than the other options is another question.
I really don't like Agar being picked. Like we even talked about that Sydney test being a test of Indian conditions for Agar, and he didn't do anything. He was such a liability in that test. Agar, like I understand the logic about hitting a left arm spinner. That's why we had to bring up Chinamen.
Yeah.
Agar, like I don't think Kohli has a weakness against shit bowling, and that's what Agar is going to bring. Like his bowling is very good in like white ball internationals, and that's it. Like he's never bowled that well in a test for Australia. He once batted well. I don't know. I really think that I think we should play Swepson. I get we have other leg spinners and stuff. But I think Swepson has been our first choice, well, in our second choice spinner for a long time now. We played him in the other subcontinent tours. I think we give Swepson one game. I think he's more likely to perform than Agar is, that's for sure.
Swepson was also on that tour 6 years ago, but didn't play.
Yeah, like I do think Swepson will play, I'm pretty sure. And I think the other one should be Boland. I don't think Morris is proven enough yet. If Morris was as good as Stark, I'd argue that sort of argument that Boland, like he'd be bringing a new sort of factor to the team, but we can't trust Morris enough yet, to be honest. He's purely there as a backup. I think Boland for sure. He's never had a go in the subcontinent really.
One
Or
thing I was
anywhere.
gonna say is, so do you guys know about Hazelwood's injury, right? Like he got it from the SCG. And like,
Apparently, yeah.
so if they already knew that, why didn't they pick Michael Nisa like as another option? That's my question. Because yeah, Boland's still pretty good, but I just don't understand the Lance Morris hype, to be honest. Like, yeah, you're quick, But
Yeah, why not just bring in Spencer Johnson?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's probably the quickest player that's not playing Test cricket because Jai Richardson is injured again. But still, I don't really understand him being there.
Yeah, I agree. Nisa deserved a spot probably. Like in the theory is that Morris is the backup to Stark, but maybe they trust him enough. Maybe they've seen something in the nets. I don't know, but yeah, I think is Nisa and Boland have never really played much. I mean, Nisa's played in England, but apart from that, they haven't really played much outside of Australia. They certainly haven't played in Asia. It's totally new. It's hard to know what it's going to be like because it requires different bowling skills.
Well, it comes down to reverse swing, and I'm not sure who are the best reverse swing bowlers in Australia other than Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to tamper the ball anymore, so it's harder as well.
Yeah, true. I just wanted to mention another player who's not in the squad, but I think it's really funny. Adam Zampa, like this, he's been so salty that he's not in the squad.
Yes,
But I don't
and no one
understand that
expected him to
at
be in the
all.
squad.
He's played
Yeah.
one Shield game in the last 3 years, and he was acting like he was like on automatic spot, basically, like he was crying about it. Zampa's
Wasn't
actually he's become a
Wasn't it
really
because he
whingy
got
player.
promised the position?
Apparently, he did.
Yeah, that's
Which is
why.
already problematic. Well, I don't know why
Yeah.
people would be getting promised a position, but at least it seemed to be a false promise.
Zampa is like not even in the top 3 Shield bowlers for New South Wales. Spin like I'd go Zampa, Sangha, Chris Green got like 8 wickets on debut, and then Zampa. So
Yeah, there's like at some point there's certainly an extent to which you have to give merit to performances in other formats, but that's pushing it, I think.
well, there is one player in the Indian squad we'll get up to who's basically gone this team because of a form.
Sure. We haven't talked about Todd Murphy. Ryan didn't even bring him up as an option, but he is in the squad. I expect Murphy to play a test match this series. I think Swepson won't do anything, and then Murphy will come in.
Oh,
Not a
damn.
bad shout. I think Murphy will definitely be Lions' replacement one day. But it's just whether you want 2 off spinners in one team. But in theory, it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I don't think that's as big as a deal as people say. I want to pick our 11 best players most likely to perform. I don't care as much about the variation there, especially because we have a lot of leg spinners in the top order. Especially I think head's going to be important. I don't know. I expect Murphy to play a game on this tour. I think he has been performing better than Agar or Swepson in the Shield. I think I think once we get desperate, we're going to turn to him, to be honest.
I was just gonna say the only way Australia would play 3 spinners is if Green is fit to bowl at 6.
Yes. Yeah. But we only really have one good spinner, so what's the point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to come back when we get to India. I want to come back to like this discussion, it's because it really revolves around the pitches and
Yeah.
the different thinking behind what spinners to play. It especially applies to India because they have a lot more spin variety. But we can come back to that. Should we move on to India?
Yeah, I reckon.
Okay.
I'd say India, the team is probably just as equally obvious. Maybe there's 2 or 3 spots. Rohit will open and captain. Yep. I think put in Pujara, KL Rahul, and Virat Kohli.
No, I think Kohli should be dropped. He just poor culture.
Arguably, he should be dropped soon. This is where it gets hard for India because Shreyas Iyer.
Because Iyer walks in every time, but
Is Rohit definitely going to open?
Yes. So I'll take over, I guess, kind of as I am in India right now.
Yes, true. Just talk to the players.
So apparently it's gonna be Gill will bat at 5, and then Rahul will stay. Rahul is still the vice captain, even though he's not that good. But yeah, he is the vice captain, so they wouldn't drop him. but he did suggest that he's happy to bat in the middle order. So it's probably a toss-up between Rahul and Gill whether they swap them around. I think they should 100% keep Rohit at the top. He's done really well at the top. Hasn't played too much because of fitness. Then there is the other option, the man I was referring to before, Surya Kumar Yadav. He's basically only picked off T20 form. I think he got like one Ranji 100 the other month. Hasn't even done that well in ODIs. Ryan, I know you were talking a little about him on Sunday. What would you think if India picked Sky at number 5?
Interesting pick. I think a lot of it comes down to team balance as well, because I know we haven't yet discussed it, but the keeper position I think is very important, especially in India.
Yeah.
So I think Sky will only play if the configuration is right. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Just saying that top 4, even though they've all had runs before against Australia as well, it's pretty vulnerable and probably one of the weakest Indian batting lineups in a big series in a long time, especially at home.
Yeah.
And if Kohli doesn't get runs here, it's like I don't think he will in the Test arena, to be honest, because he's been out of form in Test for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Played pretty much everyone as well. He has really done well to step up in white ball cricket, but Test is a lot harder.
Yeah, it's funny because if you said that a few years ago that those 4 would be the weakest lineup in ages, it'd be a bit of a joke. But yeah, it's just Pujara isn't really seen to be the player he once was. I don't know. Yeah, Kohli's always been a fraud, so it's not that surprising. Yeah, so Shubman Gill has opened before, or even recently, I believe, in the Indian Test team. Is that out of the question?
Well, Gill opened in Bangladesh, so that was their most recent series.
Yeah.
That's because Rohit Sharma got injured. He did get 100. He got some dirty declaration runs. Got 100. That was his first Test 100 actually, but he hasn't really done too much in Test cricket since the last series against Australia, and his record at home is worse than away. But the way he's been going, like he's got 400s already in 2023. So
I just wondered if there was any merit to putting Rohit back in the middle order, purely because the middle order's been so disrupted with Iyer seems to be out, right, and Pant is out. So that's their normal 5 and 6. I think that's correct. It's been for a while. So maybe Rohit's been good at number 6 before. In theory, maybe you put him there and just to strengthen the middle order a bit. I don't know if that's a sensible plan, but I wondered if they'd consider it and open with Gill.
yeah,
I think it's more likely Rahul go to the middle order than Rohit.
Or that.
Yeah, I guess Rohit has batted in the middle more than Rahul, but I think it's just because Rohit has done better as opener than Rahul. Keep the better player in his spot.
It's also because Rahul bats at 5 in one days.
Yeah.
Not that it should be a factor, but I think that will come in as a point of consideration.
Yeah. The Shreyas is out for the first 2 tests, right? That's confirmed.
First 1 test, at least.
First 1 test. I read 2 tests.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his injury was again. I think it's back problems.
Yeah. Either way, Ryan, I think we can just put. Oh, and I guess you can keep it there because he will eventually come in.
I don't think they should pick Sky. I think the only way Sky would play is if India's already won the series and they kind of just try him out.
Yeah, it'd be outrageous, wouldn't it, to pick Sky? I think it
really comes down to who they pick as a keeper. I think as well. Like if Rahul keeps, then Sky can play.
Yeah, but I don't think Rahul can keep. Like keeping in Test cricket is very different from ODI and T20, especially
he's not that
India.
good in ODI and T20.
Especially against like spin, because he'll be facing a lot of spin.
Well, that leads us to this spot now. So
for me, it's obvious for the reason. So these 2 players, it's going to be a keeper on debut. KS Barrett and Ishan Kishan. We don't know. I don't know a lot about Barrett. Like he plays for RCB, doesn't he, Ryan?
Yeah.
But I think they should go with him because he's been in this in the Indian squad for over a year now. And if the intention was him to be Pant's backup, it just makes sense. He comes in. If their reasoning for Kishan was that he's a like for Pant, why wouldn't you just had him as the backup that whole time? If that makes sense. So I think if you were to compare to other keepers, Bharat is probably closer to Saha. Kishan is like Pant. But apparently Bharat has improved his batting a lot in recent years. So for me,
How
he's in the team.
how would you rate Kishan's keeping skills? Do you think he is a keeper of the level of top quality keepers? Because I don't know all that much about his keeping.
Like, not gonna lie, I'd barely notice keeping. I feel like I do notice, but it's kind of hard to remember who's a good keeper. Like when you
Yeah.
like even in Australian cricket, it's like, yeah, Carey's good, but like how is he a lot better than like Neville or something? I don't know.
Yeah, no. But Neville was good. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I think I can't really judge them on keeping ability just because I've never seen Kishan keep for a long period of time, and Bharat I've never really seen play, so I can't really judge them on that. From a batting perspective, I know that Kishan, he always gets starts, but he can never convert, and he's only really proven himself in T20s, really.
He
So
got like
we're going
one
off
random
that.
double hundred in ODIs, but yeah.
Yeah, but he played it like a T20, so it wasn't like a constructed innings. It
Yeah,
was on a
just
flat
looking
track
at
as well.
Kishan's first class stats, averages 39, 600s.
And
It's all
apparently he's
right.
not very good against spin.
For me, Kishan just doesn't look that good. Like if you watch him play, I don't know. He's
Yeah.
a bit of a hack.
Apparently he's not very good against spin.
Yeah, Bharat's average is 37.95. I
Like,
can't filter by year, but apparently, like the start of his career, he was pretty much just a keeper. Like he couldn't bat that well, but he has improved.
yeah. I mean, yeah, as people said, I can't judge him on the keeping, but my choice would be whoever the best keeper is. I suspect it would be Bharat, but I don't actually know that for sure. I almost always think this. I think they should pick their best keeper, whoever that happens to be.
I think I fully agree with Arjun. The fact that he's a reserve to punt should tell you enough that he's the next in
Yeah.
line. I think if Kishan got drafted in just for a like replacement for punt, which I think happened, then he shouldn't be playing.
A couple of things I was going to say. Bharat actually has kept in Test cricket. There was a time when he was sub keeping and he got to keep. I think he did well. But I was going to say Jadeja, I think, will bat ahead of Bharat. And I think he could be used as kind of like a floater, as like a left-hander just to disrupt the like block of right-handers. And that's pretty much what happened to Rishabh Pant in recent years. He kept batting at number 5, even though Shreyas Iyer is pretty good. And I think Jadeja is good enough to be used in that fashion as well.
Yeah, good thinking. I think that will happen as well.
Yeah. Should I just say what I think, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
keep going, Arjun.
So obviously Ashwin, yeah. India will play 3 spinners 100% because Jadeja is such a good batsman and Ashwin can bat. And I think it's gonna be Akshar Patel ahead of Kuldeep Yadav. People have been talking about Kuldeep just judging off Indian fans on cricket Twitter. But Akshar Patel, like he averages 12 in Test cricket. Like he's done nothing wrong to not play. And judging off the pitches, he's probably gonna be the hardest bowler to face, I think, because they just haven't faced him as much as Jadeja and Ashwin. And then the 2 quicks is pretty much up to the team management. I think they'll rotate. I'd start with Shami and Siraj, yeah. But Umesh Yadav is actually one of the most underrated bowlers in Asian conditions. He's got a really good record, and he bowls well against Australia as well. So I'd like to see him play at least one game.
You think Unadkat will ever play, or is he purely a reserve?
He could. Nutcuts, I'd say, is like India's version of Nisa in the sense that he's worked really hard in domestic cricket and he's had that test goal for a long time and he finally got in the team and he did all right. He's a left arm bowler and I think what we might know of these guys might be more from IPL,
Yeah.
but Unadkat is a very good red ball bowler.
Yeah, I think I completely agree about. I think that it's pretty obvious who the 5 bowlers are going to be, and it's Axar Patel and it's Siraj as the 2 spots that if there's any potential doubt about it's those ones. But yeah, they'll be picked and they should be picked. I think they should play Shami in all 4 games if they can, but I get that he's getting older and it might be a workload thing. But I see him as very important, the Indian team. Yeah, Axar Patel should definitely play over Kuldeep. There's been performing. You shouldn't drop someone that's performing, especially in Asian conditions. And yeah, do you guys see the that we brought in a bowler to our camp that has the same action as Ashwin? We brought in some random
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I
Indian
saw
kid.
that.
He doesn't really look like he has the same action. I won't lie.
I was just gonna say Ashwin's the type of guy to just change his action now for this series.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I wonder if the guy they brought in is to man-cab the non-striker in the nets. I don't know.
Yeah.
One thing
Just
I
a
will
really
say
poor
about the
chat.
spinners, just
Yep.
going back to that, I think it's 100% like just looking at this lineup that India will have to have a big spinning track for Akshar Patel and Jadeja and Ashwin to play. Just because like with finger spin, like if it's absolutely flat, there's no way that Jadeja and Akshar Patel will play together. So I think if it's flat, Kuldeep will play over Akshar. And I think if that happens, then Swepson should play over Agar.
Maybe, but when we say absolute spinning, like I think like there's a degree of turning pitches in India. Like there's somewhere from ball 1 it might spin. But then there's like the traditional Indian pitch where you bat first, try and get like 400-500, and then it's by day 4-5, it's a whole different game. And I think on those types of pitches, you still would play Akshar Patel. And Jadeja and Ashwin are still pretty good on flat pitches, like they're used to it in Australia, and I think they'd always go with 3 spinners.
But I also think it's like it can be hard to tell with the pitch as well. Like they're not going to know for sure going in, which is why I think
That's true.
they'd pick Axar.
Just going back to that, I also think like Jadeja, Akshar Patel, and Ashwin are going to dot up Australia massively compared to the other way around. I can see India scoring. I mean, maybe not the top 4 just with the way they play, but you could easily see India scoring more quickly against Australia than the other way around. And I think that might play a factor.
Yeah, especially because Jadeja and Akshar get through their overs in like 90 seconds as well.
Yeah, and they bowl like stump to stump as well. So there's not much about beating the batsman through the air. It's like so much off the wicket that you're playing for a straight ball that turns, or you're playing for something that turns that goes straight on. So with Lion, like obviously Lion's the main threat for Australia. It's more about flight with Lion and the bounce he gets rather than like bowling stump to stump like those 2.
I was gonna say Jasprit Bumrah, I feel like is a luxury more than a need in this Indian bowling lineup at home. If he plays, it's great, but I don't think they actually really need him.
Yeah.
Like realistically, Shami and Siraj they're gonna bowl like what 2 overs each at the start, and then they're gonna go straight to spin, and then they'll only come back when the ball starts reversing, right?
Bold to think that they're going to open with pace at both ends.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna say there was a series. So India's like home series are kind of like random, like they don't have like a set season like Australia. But there was one year a couple years ago against South Africa where they did make the pitches a bit more pace friendly. India played 3 quicks and they still smashed South Africa. But I don't see that happening this time just because it's a bigger series and they might be a bit more scared whether they can handle the pace of the other team. But don't underestimate the fast bowling of the Indian team. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting about pitches. I did want to talk about this at some point. Ian Healy obviously came out and said the other day, I forgot the exact quote, but it was something on the lines of if they create a fair pitch, Australia's going to win. Is it unfair to have an extremely spin-friendly pitch?
Well, before we talk about that, I have a lot of beef with that statement because India did just beat Australia twice in a row in Australia.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
Okay, you can, like, maybe the first one you can downplay it, but the second one, India had pretty much like a C-level team, and they were able to win at the Gabba, and that was probably a good pitch. It was like lasted 5 days. And the other thing I was going to say is 6 years ago, because that was the time they toured, the worst pitch in that series was the first test in Pune. That was a horrible turning pitch, and Australia won. Sock got 12 wickets, and then after that, India had to kind of reassess, and on flatter pitches, India played better.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's that outrageous to say that we might win. Like if there was a tour in Australia right now, we might win. I get that we just lost 2 in a row to India. Yet I still think at the moment at home or on those sort of pitches, I do feel like we're the best in the world, and it's a bit, I don't know, maybe I don't know what it is to say that, considering we lost those games, but I think that team has improved, even though it's similar players. I think Khawaja helps a lot. I think Marnus and Smith are getting better.
Also, I mean, Head as well, because I think
And
it was
Head.
like between Matthew Wade and Head back then.
Head and Green are, been huge. I don't know. I think yes, but I don't think it really matters. Like, I don't think it's bad for Healy to say that he thinks we'd win on those pitches, but it's more about saying fair and unfair. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think, Ryan? Because I feel like you'd have a strong opinion on a fair pitch.
Well, I wouldn't say that the Gabba pitch was unfair. You know what I mean? Like it went I think what defines an unfair pitch is if it's so one-sided to either bowler or batter, right? You can't really say it caters more to one team in any sense because a pitch is made to suit either a bowler or a batter, right? So I think I think if the game ends in 3 days, then you can say like the pitch, you can blame the pitch for producing whatever result it will be. But if it's 5 days, then like it's anyone's game really. So I can definitely agree with what Ian Healy's saying. And if it ends in 3 days, it's likely that Australia is going to get bowled out for like 50 both innings than India.
Well, I think the like unfair fair is more of a not bat and ball, but I think it's more of comparing the home and away team. Like the Gabba pitch was bad, but South Africa could exploit the same conditions because of their fast bowling. But it's kind of like Australia's spin bowling isn't as good as India's. That's why it looks more unfair than it is.
But is that unfair? Is it unfair to produce a pitch?
Yes, so is that unfair because you're the home team and you're just making it in your favor?
I don't think that's unfair. I think it's just how much weight do you put like bowler versus batter? I don't think that's just a comparison. I don't think you do that by evaluating the teams because anyone could easily see Nathan Lyon taking 12, 13 wickets.
Yeah, and I don't think from India's point of view, I don't think it should be extremely turning pitches because Indian batters can't even play spin that well themselves. And
yeah, I still don't like that way of thinking though. That I hate the idea that teams should be preparing pitches that favor the home team. I ultimately think there are good pitches and bad pitches, and every country has produced good pitches and bad pitches recently, and a good pitch is when there is something in it for everyone. I think that's the best kind of pitch that produces the best kind of cricket. I think there's already incredible advantages to the home team, and I think it should be frowned upon if some cricketing countries are going to intentionally produce pitches that they think will favor them. I don't think that should be happening. I understand. I don't think it's unfair because anyone can do it. Like that's why it's not unfair. But I do feel Healy has got some kind of point in that I don't feel over the past sort of 10 years Australia have been Like I think we have produced some bad pitches like the MCG, but that's only because it's been too flat and it hasn't been something in for everyone. I think everyone talks about the pace and the bounce, but I don't know, some of those pitches, we still see spinners can perform on them. And I think we often produce pitches that are good for everyone. And India and Pakistan in particular, often, and Sri Lanka, often produce pitches that are more intentionally trying to favor their own team. I don't know.
Well, I think India, like every other team, does favor themselves, but I don't think actually India have had as many shocker pitches as you might think. The main really bad one against England was that test that lasted 2 days, but I think that was actually more down to it being a pink ball test, and the pink ball just does a lot more shit. And like especially with dew and in Asia, they haven't actually been able to figure out the best way to contain it, and I think that's why that test it looks a bit worse than it is. But other than that, if I was looking at the other day, like there is the odd test that lasts a couple of days, but by and large, it's still India scoring 300-400 and showing that he can bat on that pitch. And I think England does it even worse. Not worse, but it's hard to say better or worse. But England also does it a lot, and people just kind of accept it just because, oh, look, Anderson's such a cool bowler. But
yeah, I agree. England do it. I don't know. I feel Australia don't do it. Like I'm probably extremely biased here, but I feel we don't do it to the scale that other countries intentionally do it. I think partly because we almost need that. Like it's been Test cricket in Australia is getting a bit dead because of how easy it's been getting aside from India, and we want there to give the other people a chance.
No, I actually agree. I don't think Australia does it that much. It's just Australia is just so good at home anyway. Like the conditions are already alien enough. You don't really need to alter it.
Yeah. And that sort of is the thing. Like, well, I feel Australian conditions are best suited for developing players that are good at everything. So it's probably not fair for me to say that it's good to produce pitches that are good for everyone. Yet, if you grow up in India, you just don't get much of a chance to play on those pitches because like subcontinental conditions can't produce pitches that it's the same as they are in Brisbane or Perth or whatever. It's impossible.
I just want to say, like we're not experts, but I feel like test is just a whole different level because in white ball, I feel India can make whatever pitches they want. Like the other day, like the ODI series against New Zealand, there was one game where New Zealand were brought up for 100, all the wickets were falling to pace, and it's like different because they use so many grounds in India as well. It's like there's a lot of variety, but I don't know, just test cricket it seems like a whole different because you need that soil to last a few days and it's just very different.
Does anyone think there is a case for actually having neutral ICC people involved in the preparation of pitches before test series?
Right.
I don't know whether it'd make any difference, to be honest, because you always want every pitch around the world to have its unique characteristics. As soon as you bring in independent people to assess whether a ground is like fair, you lose the element of every ground. So I don't know. I think the pitches are the way, like, I know it may seem like if the pitch is a rank turner, it's more likely going to favor India than Australia, but I think that's just the nature of the ground and what it is, rather than, like I said, a bias to one country over another. Because I think like once you bring in people that are neutral, I don't know. It's like suggesting that like the WACA will be the same as Sydney in the long run. That's what I think will happen if you bring in independent people monitoring every ground.
I'm gonna say no, Will, just because like you got to look at the bigger picture here. And I don't think, say, West Indies, Sri Lanka, I don't think they could survive if like they were constantly losing at home. Maybe like they're still decent. Every cricket team right now is still pretty good at home, except for Pakistan. But so I think you need that kind of home character to keep Test cricket going.
No, ironically, I think Pakistan are bad at home because they intentionally produce really shit pitches and it totally backfired on them twice.
Yeah. Yeah, though we could have this debate another time, but I feel like Test cricket is heading in the direction of only there being 3-4 relevant teams,
Yeah.
and that's where the pitches are more relevant because the teams are very close. So it's like the pitch actually dictates the game a lot more.
Yeah, I think that's unfortunately true. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that having a neutral ICC person would make sense because India own the ICC and it's always been extremely biased in India's favor, and everyone's known it. So it's not going to do anything having ICC people in those pitches. But anyway,
Though it does work.
Isn't
It does
that what
work
the
in
World
white ball.
Test Championship is for? In the end, to even out all the teams and any sort of home advantage you have or whatever opponent you play.
I mean, I feel people don't care that much about it.
I think the World Test Championship is flawed. Like even the final as well. Like a one-off test doesn't really say a lot.
Yeah,
I think
one-off tests always in English conditions as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's likely to be Australia and India, right, in the final. So that is a neutral venue.
I think if India win this series, like by any scoreline, they're going to be in the final against Australia. There is a small chance Australia don't make it, but I think that's only if India win 4-0 and some other results.
Well, is that what we want to go to next? Maybe the predictions for the series.
Yeah, and just some general sort of vibes and matchups that you think are important. So a big question for you, Ryan: will Virat Kohli get runs this series?
I think he'll perform in 1 out of the 4 tests, and then he'll get a lot of starts.
By perform, do you mean getting 100?
100. He'll score 100 in 1 test, and then he'll get a lot of 30s and 40s.
I think Indian fans would take that.
Fun fact: Kohli averages 0 runs against Pat Cummins in Test matches in India. He's been out once.
Really?
Yeah,
I know he averages 16 against Cummins in general. Actually, that's the funny thing. Kohli's last series at home against Australia, he averaged 9. So
that was when he was actually good as well.
Yeah. So the signs don't really suggest to anything randomly just changing for him. The fortune's changing. How about we go through kind of players that you think will perform and won't perform?
Should we do a scoreline prediction first, or
should we build up to that?
I think we could build up to that.
Okay.
Okay, should we start with Australia then? Players we think are really going to perform, or perhaps players that have to perform if Australia are going to win the series. I think players that I personally think are going to perform. I said Khawaja. I think Khawaja, yes. I think Pat Cummins. I think Pat Cummins will be the best bowler in the series. I think he will be excellent. And I think everyone's even on pitches where they aren't meant to be good for pace, Cummins is going to perform. I want to say Renshaw, but I don't know if he's going to be picked. I'm going to say Renshaw, if he's picked, will perform. Yeah, I'll stick with those 3. And players that I think won't perform, I'm going to say Marnus isn't going to have a great series. And I'm going to say Smith doesn't do quite as well as we're hoping. I think Khawaja will be our best batsman. Smith will be all right, really, but not up to his standards, and Marnus won't do that much. And I'm going to say, I hate to say it, but I think Nathan Lyon isn't going to be as good as we hope as well. As good as I hope. I think our pace is going to be more important than our spin.
Arjun?
I've got similar thoughts actually. I agree. I think Khawaja, I think he'll play well. Cummins, yeah, he's just too skillful, and he'll definitely be the best fast bowler in the series. And I also agree. I think Marnus, I don't think he might be bad. I think maybe he averaged like 35, and that might not even be that bad for this series. But I think he'll just be a little bit worse than usual. And yeah, I agree with Nathan Lyon. I think India have got on top of Lyon in the last maybe 6 tests they played against him. And like for a long time he was really good against them, and now he's kind of faded away a bit. And he's lost his edge a bit. He might have one innings where he pops off, I reckon, one or two. I also think Mitchell Stark, if he plays, will be a bit underwhelming. Just he's another player I think India have really gotten on top of. Um, and I think Travis Head won't be good. I think it's a little bit overhyped that he's like too dominant at home, but I still think he's just out of that top 5. I'd pick him as the weaker one, not including Warner, because yeah, we all know Warner.
I also want to quickly add, because his name wasn't in front of me at the time, Hazelwood. I think Hazelwood and Cummins will be our best bowlers. When Hazelwood plays, if as long as he's fit, I think Hazelwood will be very important and will play well. Ryan?
Yeah, very interesting. Actually, I think if Smith doesn't perform, we're fucked. I won't lie.
I agree.
Because I really don't think Clyde is going to have a huge series. I think he's going to get a lot of starts, but won't convert. I think Marnus is going to have a terrible series, in all honesty. I think he'll get out cheaply in the majority of innings. I think Carey's going to have a really big series. I think he's going to perform really well. I think his keeping is going to be excellent, and I think he's going to score a lot of runs. Smith will have a huge series, I reckon. I definitely agree. Cummins will be our best bowler, and Hazelwood, if he's fit, will be up there with him. I don't think Lyon's gonna have a bad series. I think he's gonna be what we expect him to be. I think he's gonna be consistent, gonna take a few wickets here and there, but like I don't think he's gonna tear India apart by any means.
Yeah,
I think in terms of underperformers, well, yeah, Khawaja I think is gonna underperform Marnus just based off history, just off recent history. I think Warner will do okay. I honestly think if he scores like 30 to 40 in most innings, and that's fine. So yeah,
I'd be very happy with that.
I think, do we all kind of assume that Australia's second spinner will just be a little bit underwhelming throughout?
I think Murphy could do okay. I think Agar is bad. I think Swepson is usually bad.
to be fair, I think we're sleeping a little on Agar. To be honest, I think he can do okay. Just because if Jadeja and just look at how many right-handers are in India's team, I think Agar will do okay if the pitches suit him, which they should.
I think if Agar goes half as well as Jadeja or Axar, he would have done well, because they're a lot better than him.
But I reckon Swepson could get sent. Like they will definitely target him if he plays.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
And that might be good for us, to be honest. That might be how he actually hits wickets.
Didn't he get Kohli out with like a half tracker one time, I swear?
Yes, I remember it. In a T20, but yes. So when he
Yeah.
randomly played a T20 international at home.
Yeah. What else? Well, I was gonna say something. Yeah, Lyon, I was gonna say his record in India is actually pretty much the same as his career record. Like he's not better or worse there. Which I feel like that kind of makes sense.
Okay, should we move on to India then? Players we think will perform and won't perform.
Yeah, Ryan, do you want to start?
Won't perform. I think India's top 3 will struggle a little bit. I think Pujara might do okay, but Rohit and Rahul might struggle. I think Kohli's, like I said, he'll score 100 in one of the innings, but he'll get starts. I think Shreyas and Gill, just off recent form, they'll look like they'll do decently well. And with this spin, I'm 100% certain that this spin is going to win in the series. Jadeja, Ashwin, and Akshar is going to tear through. Well, if the pitches are right, tear through Australia. and then India's paces will just clean up the rest. If it even gets to the reverse swing stage, but if it's anything to go by, looking at the pitches India have produced in the past, and I think Jadeja and Ashwin will do most of the damage.
Who would
Yeah.
Underperform?
Yeah, like if you had to pick a specific player, like, do you reckon
Okay.
Ashwin's the best bowler? And then
So I think Ashwin will definitely be the best bowler. Underperform, I think. I don't know how highly people rate Jadeja, but I don't think he'll take that many wickets compared to like Akshar, just because they're slightly different. But I think Akshar will outperform Jadeja for sure. I think Rohit Sharma is probably not going to have a huge series, but I'm just guessing at this point. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've got no reason to say why he wouldn't, but yeah, that's just a bold prediction.
Yeah. I think my bold call with India is that I think Jadeja and Ashwin's batting is going to be more important to them in this series than their bowling. I think there's going to be a lot of times where we get a lot of wickets and Jadeja and Ashwin are going to bat India out of trouble. I don't know about Bharat, and then maybe Axar Patel can be included in that as well. He's actually not a bad batter either. I think India's sort of middle order, like lower middle order to upper tail, are going to be some of their best batters throughout the series. I think the top four is all going to be inconsistent. I expect Rohit to be the best of them throughout the series. I don't think he'll be amazing, but I think he'll overperform and that he's going to be better than the other three. I agree with Ryan. I think Kohli will probably get maybe 1.5 big scores, but get out for almost nothing every other time. I don't even think he'll make starts. I think Pujara and Rahul will be underwhelming. They'll underperform. I think bowling wise, Axar Patel will be India's best bowler by far this series, to be honest, as long as they play him. I think we're going to be really prepared for Jadeja and Ashwin, and Axar is going to fuck us a bit. Like Axar Patel and the paces. I think maybe I could see Siraj having a really good series. He has before against us. So yeah, I think Ashwin and Jadeja underperform bowling, overperform batting, basically.
yeah, I agree with so Ashwin, Jadeja, Akshar, they're genuine all rounders, and like their batting is going to be really, really important. I think this series actually will come down to runs from say 6 to 8, 9, and I think that's where India is pretty strong. I can imagine like Shreyas and Jadeja and just getting big partnerships. For me, Jadeja is going to be man of the series. I think he's India's most important player because his batting is like he's a genuine batter, and his bowling is not as important these days, but I still think his bowling will be good. Yeah, the top four, I can't see them just turning around their form. I think Pujara might bat for a long time in every innings, but he just won't get going. I agree with Kohli. I think he might have one big innings here or there. And I also agree. I think Rohit will be the best out of those four. But I think the best batter will be Shreyas Iyer when he plays, if he plays, or Shubman Gill. I think Gill is really starting to click, and I think he's proving that he's India's next generation batter. I can see Mohammad Siraj doing damage with the new ball. He's the number one ODI bowler. It's a different format, but he's really, really improved at that. And when Umesh Yadav plays, I think he's going to do really well. And he's become kind of like a cult hero right now in Indian cricket, and I think he's going to perform. And then Ashwin, Ashwin's Ashwin, man. So now what should we do? Scoreline predictions.
Okay, what do you think?
Should I go first, Ryan?
Yeah, go first. You go first.
All right. I'm gonna go 3-1 India. I think Australia can win a test, but I think just India's bowling is just too good, and pitches or not, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I think 3-1 India. I think Australia will dominate the one test they win. But yeah, I can't see Australia if the pitches are what everyone thinks they're gonna be. I think like India's spinners will just test through Australia's lineup because I don't think I think we go back to the comment. I go back to the comment you guys made about most of the important runs coming from like 6 to 8, and I think just imagine like India are more likely to score runs in that department than Australia will. So
Yeah,
I think India 3-1.
I think Australia will win the series. I do think that. I think just thinking about our team and the space we're in right now, we've done a few pretty amazing things. We've won in Pakistan. We've been so dominant at home. I think we have been the best team in world cricket ever since we lost to India at home. We've been very clearly the best team in world cricket. And I think, I agree that the batting from 6 to 8 will be important, but I think our top 4 will score a lot more runs than India's top 4, and that is ultimately what will win us the series. I think we'll win maybe 3-1, 2-1 if there's a really dead pitch maybe, or rain or something, but I think 3-1. I feel we have nothing to lose going into this series, and that's a really good spot for us to be in. I feel that so many people think India are going to win this. Maybe a few random Australian commentators think we're going to win, but the consensus of the cricketing community really is that India won't lose a home test series. And I think the team we're in is at such a positive way of playing, in such a positive frame of mind, in the space that they're in, that it's not good. And the fact that we have 3 really, really quality players of spin as well in Khawaja, Labuschagne and Smith, I think we have enough to win the series. I think ultimately be our top order outperforming India's top order, and our pace bowlers just being, once we get Cummins, Stark and Hazelwood, and hopefully Green back bowling, it will be a better bowling lineup. I also don't think the pitches are going to be as bad as everyone. All the Australians are feared as well. I think that might help us. But yeah, I think we can win this series.
Well, even though I said 3-1, I think this is Australia's best chance of winning. Since the last time they won there, and if India do win this series, I just can't see them losing at home for like a long, long time. It's already been 10 years, but yeah, this is their weakest. And I like how you mentioned, since India beat Australia, Australia being the best in the world by far. Because since then, India have really like been average. I'd say like they should have won in England, should have won in South Africa, and Rohit probably isn't as good at captain as Kohli, I'd say, in tests.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just feels like winning in India, man. Like they've only lost 2 tests at home in the last 10 years. But Australia is just different. Australia is built different. Like
one of those tests was to us.
Yeah.
And yeah, we did this tour in Pakistan. That was the warm up for this tour. Yes, it'll be very different, but mentally that's the warm up for this tour. And we grinded that through. We should have won the second test, and we did win the third test. Plus the tour away in England. There's just so many of these tours that have added to our character somewhat. And I don't know. I think we have the team to do it. We really do. We have such a set team.
You have swung me a little bit, because even though I think 6 to 8 is so important, India's top 4 is just so bad that maybe it's not good enough to save them. Like that does make sense what you're saying. Like comparing Khawaja minus Smith to Rohit, Pujara, Kohli.
Yeah. And it was bad against Bangladesh. Like that's not Pat Cummins. That's not,
Yeah, but those pitches really were.
Sure.
But I'm just gonna say one thing though. If somehow India's top 4 does click and perform, do you think then India will win?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
But it is a pretty big if, even though those players have had class careers. It's just, yeah, they don't seem the same.
I think if they really perform, like if they're hitting hundreds, if someone's hitting 100 most games, then yes, it's hard to lose a test series if your top four is really performing.
One thing I will say is that Australia's bowling, especially in the first test, might be a bit iffy. Just in terms of experience, that's the only thing I'll add.
I
And
think that's the test we're most vulnerable in. I agree.
Just because Boland, well, we don't know what he's really like outside Australia. Lyon, we know he's statistically the same in India as he is for his whole career. Agar and Swepson's relatively uncertain, but we know Cummins is gone. So that's the only thing we're going off here. So all this discussion has really been about Australia's top four versus India's top four, but ultimately to win the test, you need to bowl the other side out. So I think, especially in the first test, Australia might struggle a little bit. But until we get like Hazelwood and Stark back, I don't know. Like I'd say that's 50-50. But at least for the first test, like they're gonna struggle a little bit.
Yeah, I just think that bowling's a bit weak, yeah, especially in the first test. I just wanted to talk about the 4 venues, even though we're getting to the end. Just I don't know a lot, but I'm pretty sure realistically, I think Dharamsala would be the best for pace and would be a bit quicker than the other 3 pitches. And they actually haven't played there since Australia played there 6 years ago. I think it's 100% Delhi will be like a slow turning pitch, and as well as the bad stadium, the massive 120k stadium. And then I think Nagpur. Have you guys seen? There's like some photos came out today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure red soil means it's like more spin than like black soil. So
Yeah, he does.
yeah. The Indian media is definitely playing tricks though, because some reports say they'll play 4 spinners, which I don't see any reason for them to. And then I've also seen reports saying BCCI told the creators to make every pitch last 5 days. So I think we'll see. Like the pitches is a kind of an overrated conversation.
Yeah.
But
I remember before Pakistan, everyone saying that Rawalpindi was going to be the one pitch that pace was going to dominate on, and they got out there and it was like, holy fuck, it's just so bad.
Yeah, I feel like Pakistani creators don't know. Like
yeah.
Oh yeah, Will, what was your scoreline? You said Australia would win. But...
I'm gonna say 3-1, but maybe 2-1 depending on if there's a pitch that no one can win on. Then maybe like there was like Rawalpindi. But no, I'm gonna say 3-1 Australia. I think the one we lose might be the first. And then I think we'll come back from there. Like I think we need Cameron Green, we need Stark and Hazelwood, we need those players that have done all these other amazing things with this team and won. If we can get our main group back together, I think we'll win the series.
Is there anything else we can say here?
Been a long episode. I haven't got much.
No.
Yeah. So we'll try and post more. I think there's an ODI series after this series that's going to be important with the World Cup coming up. And then this could well be a 5-match series if the Test Championship final between these 2 sides as well. But I think that's all we got for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching. And yeah, bye.
See ya.
See ya.